Hey guys, Montel here, and welcome to this edition of Let's Be Blunt with Montel. My guest today started his career working for Ohio State Speaker of the House, Vern Riffe, in the Ohio's 114th General Assembly. He then spent 25 years in broadcasting, with the high point being nationally syndicated for a blues radio show that ran in about 40 markets across the country from 1994 to 1998. And after an accident and 20 surgeries, he was permanently disabled and has found relief through medical cannabis. He's a staunch patient advocate and currently serves as the executive director of the Ohio chapter of Norml. Mr. Simon Dunkle, welcome to Let's Be Blunt with Montel. Thank you so much for being here today, sir.
Thank you, Montel. Much respect. I have watched you for years, and it's great to finally be in quote unquote the same room, I guess.
Yeah, well, we are in a way. We definitely are. At least we're in the same forum together. Well, look, we have so much to talk about. Let's get started a little bit about. Why don't you tell me exactly where you were coming to me live from right now?
Well, I'm at the Cannabis Museum in Athens, Ohio, which is a fantastic place. Basically, the history of cannabis, and showing everything pre-1937. 25,000 uses in all, over 10,000 years of use as a plant in various and sundry ways, which I'm sure you know most of.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that it covers on the fact that it does to show the fact that cannabis was one of the reasons why America became so successful as a country.
Correct, and it's one of the few or only plants I know of that could actually save the planet. With carbon and leaching soils and things like that. I mean, there's so many different ways that this plant can do things for humanity, and the fact that powers that be don't pay attention or don't want education or whatever the problem is. That's where we have to come in, and with Ohio Norml, I'm working with the Cannabis Museum just to sort of bring our history with us.
I would love for you to, when we finish our interview, you ought to have one of your staff members take that camera of yours and just kind of shoot around a little bit, give us a little bit of a sneak peek at what's inside of the museum, and that'll promote it so that people will know they go to Ohio. Where's it located at? It's
in Athens, Ohio, on Canaanville Road.
Athens, Ohio. I'm sure, for a podcast like this one, I would love for our viewers to, if they happen to be going through Athens, Ohio, to drop in and take a look, because I've been talking about this so much on the show. I try to cover as much history as I possibly can about the plant. And I'm glad that there's a physical location that people can go and actually enhance their own knowledge.
Yep. Don Wertschafter is the one responsible for this. He's got an archive of over 10,000 artifacts. It's just an amazing group of facts and education. And photographs and raw examples, and it's really I guess you'd call it somewhat of a working museum, in that it shows the mechanics of how hemp was processed and go through the history.
Wow, I tell you what, maybe what you can do for us is that at a future date, let's come back if you can get back into the same location. Maybe you can take us on a little tour and talk to the curator and say maybe if he wants to be on, we can have him on and let's talk through that history. I think people need to know it.
Oh, most definitely. Well, it's sort of what I did with Ohio Norml. I mean, I don't mean to skip off subjects on you, but
no.
Ohio Norml has an interesting history. Colorful is probably a term. And what happened was Norml National came to me and said, we'd like you to be the executive director of Ohio Norml. They did that because I proved that the Ohio medical marijuana license is strictly for purchase, not use. That meaning, when you do the transaction in the dispensary, that is covered. But when you hit the door, it's 1974. Legal jurisdictions can do whatever they want. State agencies, state groups. It's a scarlet letter license, and it's just disgusting. And they know they did it. They know.
Wow. Well, before we get to that, because we are going to get to that, let's back up a little bit and talk a little bit about your past. Now, you worked in the General Assembly and came from a family of lawyers, judges, so you know a little thing or two about the law and your civil rights.
Yeah, I worked for Vern Riffe, Speaker of the House, page and aide. Used to drive him back and forth to his house worked in conference committee with Merle Shoemaker on his behalf. I'm maybe a year and a half, 2 years at the most. But, it came to the point where I realized I had some morals and scruples and such. And I left and ended up living in my car for 4 months and finding a career in radio in Wyoming.
Wow. And that career in radio led you to a pretty lengthy career in you had a blues show. Is that right?
Correct. Blues Jam with Peter Simon was the name of it. And it's a 2-hour program, basically using features to get the audience to hang around. You wouldn't know what was in the feature, but you knew the feature would be there, sort of the gimmick. But Who Took What From Whom is probably one of the most popular ones, which, the original and the remake, and then jamming on a subject, because there's 3 songs about everything in the blues. And Blues Artist of the Week, Women of the Blues, Alexander of the Week, things like that.
Is it still available anywhere that people could listen to?
No, it's not. I haven't. After that syndication deal, I kind of, I did a couple more things and then got out of radio and had kids and went a different direction with life. So I'd love to get back into it. But
it was after that radio career that you had your accident, right?
Actually, during, I guess you could say.
Tell us what happened.
Well, I was working for WCBE in Columbus, public radio station owned by the school board. And the Kinsey Report, Chicago blues band, came to town. And the whole band was there with their father and everything. So he played with Bob Marley as bassist, I do believe. And it was one of those special nights you want to catch on tape. So I was asked by Bruce Iglar at Alligator Records to record the concert, and got a rack-mounted digital audio tape player, weighed about 45 pounds, and took it to the Thirsty Ear here up in Columbus, and stepped on the wet grassy knoll, and that was kind of the last step. Stuffed my coccyx into my lumbar.
Oh my God!
That was it. Didn't drop the deck, but
wow,
was the end of the lower spine. And then that 23 years later, here I am. But
and during that 3-year period of time, you've ended up going through how many surgeries?
20 plus. I mean, I honestly stopped counting. I had 3 back surgeries in 6 months. All were botched. The doctor wouldn't give me pain meds after the surgery. So after having fusions to my spine, I was sent home without pain relief. I shredded my pillowcases and sheets and everything with my toenails and fingernails. And they botched that surgery, and I had to go back in for a second one a month later, and died during that surgery and had to be resuscitated. And then due to the fact that I didn't finish everything during that second surgery, when I fell in February of 16, I got a compound fracture at L3, which is now a reoccurring fracture. 2 of the fusions have come apart, bulging discs, herniated discs, pedicle screws that are broken in half and just sort of laying there like debris. And then the main fusion screws are bent and deteriorating. So.
Oh my God! And they did put you on medication, right?
Oh, morphine, Vicodin, Soma, Seroquel, and fentanyl. Raising 2 sons by myself.
And I guess you must have gotten a divorce during that period of time, or?
Well, the divorce came when basically I went and quit all the medications and started using marijuana at the behest of Dr. Ross at Grant Hospital in Columbus. And then the domestic relations court called me in while we were going through the divorce, cut my hair, and called me a drug addict for smoking marijuana, and gave my kids to my ex-wife.
Wait a minute, but cannabis was legal at that point in time, was it not?
No, it wasn't.
Oh my goodness! But you were
2009 area.
Yeah. So they labeled you a drug addict, took your kids away.
Correct.
Later on, now, when did cannabis finally become legal medically in Ohio?
Gosh, I guess it's been 5 years at this point. So 2017, 18. Yeah.
And were you able to
testifying in the legislature back about 2012?
Well, you had turned to medical marijuana back in 2009, so 2015, and now it becomes legal. I mean, I guess it just seems so ridiculous that the courts made the decision that they made, where now they would not make that same decision, or would they?
It's Ohio. I mean, you just don't know what they're going to do. I mean, it's really a nightmare in the state. The FBI came out last year and called this the most correct political system in the country. So I would have to concur with that. Because I mean, they do these things where, like with gambling, they came out, it failed. They took everybody in the back room and made a deal. The issue 3 failed. They went, the marijuana issue. They went in the back room, made a deal. Now we have medical marijuana, which is just scary. I mean, that's the best word for it. because it's just nefarious in its existence.
Well, let's slow down for a second. Let's go back. So how does medical cannabis help you? What's it done for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I went from 38 medications to 8. I quit
Wow.
the morphine, Vicodin, Soma, Seroquel, fentanyl, cold turkey. And yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's like I don't know if you're familiar with a nerve block, but
Sure.
it's similar to that in the fact that it's a mental block for me. I can focus on other things. I can write, I can create, I can, concentrate, read, do things I can't normally do because I've had, those 20 plus surgeries and procedures or ankles, knees, spine, shoulders, hiatal hernia. So there's pain coming from every direction in my body.
No.
And it becomes mind over matter, but the marijuana really, the cannabis really is the kicker that, lets me cope,
So now when the law finally passed and changed, did that reverse the decision about your custody or did it change anything about that or that just stayed in its place?
Not at all. I mean, I walked around with copies of the state and federal constitution in the Grandview Heights School District in Columbus, daring superintendent of schools, principals, teachers, to cross me and take me to court because I didn't recognize the county court decision. And, I would show them how I qualify to see my kids as a regular citizen and a disabled citizen and why that, I don't have to recognize the county court decision. And if they did, we'd end up in federal court with a discrimination lawsuit. It would cost them $10,000 to talk to me. So
Wow.
they listened, didn't do anything, and I was in contempt of court for 12 years without being hauled in.
That's great. But now let's talk a little bit more about just what's going on in Ohio. I mean, so they have transitioned to a medical marijuana state, yet they still arrest patients once they walk out the door of a dispensary.
Correct. And they did that. I mean, there's one case where there was a family in Salina, Ohio, parents and 2 kids with licenses, went to the dispensary. Each parent went in without the child, came back to the car with their medication, got in the car, 2 blocks away, got stopped with the police. They had Job and Family Services in tow, took the kids on site. Took them 3 years to get the kids out of foster care. They ended up with 5 years of community service for going to the dispensary.
Well, how does that? You've got experience in the legal system and experience in the legislature. I mean, how does that go down in a state that has a clear mandate for medical cannabis?
Right there is the first flag of it's for purchase, not use. Because if it was for use, that would have never happened. And the state has done nothing as far as putting any anti-discrimination or limitation on agencies or anybody else. The mantra with these people is we don't recognize the license, the medication, or the system that it's functioning in. And that's county court, state court, hearing board, everybody.
But explain to me how that can be if it's a law that's on the books.
I can't. That's the problem.
Can anybody?
Pardon me?
I said, can anybody explain that?
I haven't heard anybody yet. I mean, I spoke with Ethan, constituent relations in Governor DeWine's office, and he literally laughed at me and told me that I was right. And the only way I could change it would be ballot referendum or the legislature. And, my pivot is class action lawsuit or federal injunction because you sold a license to people, took the money, probably about $28 million if they paid $50 a head, right? 566,000 people. And it was a false pretense. And people view it like it's a fishing license. You can eat the fish, right? Well, you can't smoke the weed. I mean, you can, but, you're at risk just like you were without it. And, the money that the state's made in this whole situation makes that first energy fraud look like a picnic. Because, they've set up a whole system where they've made money off of everybody. The cultivators, the dispensaries, the whole line of money. And it's all basically a fraud because it's for purchase and not use. And then we've got the quality of the medication, the edibles and medication. There's no oversight from the health department. So we have no idea what's in this stuff. And then when you try to test it, there's a codicil in the law that if you test your product, you could be arrested.
Whoa. Let's explain us.
It's there. You take a look. It's like I'm not allowed to take pictures inside the dispensary, yet I did. Because there was a sign that read, the health department is not involved with processing of, food or medication in this program, and food allergens are present. And I can send it to you if you'd like to see it. But yeah, and I could be arrested for having that photograph and having taken it.
And if you went out and did a third-party testing on your product and came back with results, they could actually prosecute you for that?
But at least revoke my license at the minimum, yes. Violating the rules of the program.
How are Ohio residents, navigating this craziness?
Well, Ohio State, and the state paid for this, has done an annual study. It's in its 5th year, and they're compiling the study right now. But they can only compile the information. They can't advocate. So that's where we come in. We want to take those 5 years of studies, and instead
we meaning Norml. We meaning Norml.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Take those 5 years worth of studies and, speak the truth and reality, what the study says, because the legislature just construes it in their direction. They're not concerned about the truth, the reality, the patients, or any of it. And they keep proving that point. President Pro Tem of the Senate got up in front of the Senate Bill 9 committee and stated that, only 50% of the licenses aren't being used. Yet the actual reality from the study is it's 72% of the licenses aren't being used, which I think right there tells you, hey, if the obvious thought is I can smoke marijuana if I have this license, doesn't matter where I get it from, no one can touch me. And that is not the case.
So now, even though there's a medical program that's in existence, people can get a license that they had to pay for. They can go into a dispensary, they can buy the product. But if they walk out of the store with the product, then they can be arrested.
Correct. Or harassed by state agencies. Bureau of Oak Rehab won't work with me, has declared me unemployable because of my marijuana use.
And how about, do you have access to other medical services in the state?
Problem is, I've been to 6 hospitals in 3 cities, and they are discriminating against me with all their power. Cleveland Clinic being the latest. I had a meeting with my primary care physician trying to organize my issues last week. And he said that the Cleveland Clinic is regressive when it comes to marijuana use. And that's my problem.
But I thought the Cleveland Clinic was doing some studies on marijuana. Were they not?
I do not know. I've asked them. I've approached to basically help use the Cannabis Museum's archives to show them, ways it can be used and has been used, interactions, things like that. And they basically tell me to put it in a written form and submit it to their board, and they'll get back to me. And there's nothing going on. I've approached their ombudsman. I've approached their executive offices. I have a really severely injured spine, and they have blocked me from spine recovery therapy. And I've offered to quit the marijuana, but yet they won't let me in the program. They've turned me down twice. They used the same MRI for 9 months and gave me 4 different diagnoses to just run me off. And then recently I had a back issue, went to Avon Hospital, and that group of doctors was jumping up and down and tried to have me admitted immediately to Maine for surgery and help. And Maine turned around and said, no, come see us in July. So that's what's happening. 12th of July, I'll see the spine surgeon, and we'll find out if they're going to do anything. But Dr. Malecki, the head of neurology for the Cleveland Clinic, has already said that I'm inoperable on all my surgeries. So apparently I'm just supposed to sit here and hum. But I'm going to see if I can't get at least the shoulder done and go from there.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy how they literally are basically holding you hostage in a way. They want you to buy the product so that they can make tax dollars, but then they want to also be able to arrest you so they can make some money off the judicial system.
Correct. And the thing is that, there's different actions from different legal venues, jurisdictions. For example, the Highway Patrol on the freeway considers that federal land, federal pavement. So they will arrest you for a federal drug charge, no matter you got a medical marijuana license or not. Same thing with park rangers, that kind of thing. There's decrim in, I do believe it's 36 cities around the state at this point, but it's not coverage for the whole state. And, you run through Facebook and the sheriff departments around the state, they're still boasting about their busts, celebrating them on 420 and things like that.
And now, are you getting any support from national, Norml, or from outside organizations? Has anybody stepped in to figure out how unconstitutional this really is?
Well, I've just started working with Norml over the last 6 months when they offered to give me the chapter. I did talk to them about making a declaration. And the response I got was, well, we're giving you the organization. You make the declaration. You make the run up the hill and prove your points as, executive director for Ohio. So that's the process I'm in.
So they're basically dangling you out there by yourself.
I was dangling as much as, I guess letting me do it for myself. I don't even bring up the Pointer Sisters, but,
Sure. And how's the citizenry of Ohio responding to this? Are they coming behind you, or are they just being quiet, or
no,
people letting it go?
You're actually our first public performance other than Compest this past weekend, our first public, conversations. I had just gotten the chapter. We started talking in December, finally got the logo and all the paperwork about a month ago. And I took this whole project. This is my fourth organization in the state of Ohio since 2009. I've been advocating in the State House since 2012. And they gave this to me. I was stunned because that's not the normal function. You can't just give someone a chapter, right? But that's essentially what they did. So I had to sit back for a minute and think, okay, what am I going to do with this? Because of the craziness and failures previously that have been through the state of Ohio, the payoffs and all this crap. I wanted to do it right with the right people. So what I did is I went back and got the OGs of the OGs, about 100 plus years of Norml experience in Ohio. Don Wirtschafter, curator of the Cannabis Museum, attorney. Cliff Barrows, former Norml.
But you've got to have the support of the industry in Ohio, do you not?
Yes, and that's what we're approaching. I've got my board of directors, and we're working on an advisory board that includes members of the community that are working in the medical marijuana program in Ohio as an advisory board, also as an educational arm. And we're also charging them a rate to be on that board so that we can have the money to function as an organization. We're meant to be a patients' rights and advocacy and consumer rights organization. The mission is getting what we have out of, getting what we want out of what we have, basically. And that's what we're doing. I mean, we've got what we have, and we try to change it to something that's ethical, moral, and acceptable. I mean, we want.
Are you going to have to go down the lawsuit way to get this at least addressed?
Pardon me, I didn't get the last of that.
Are you going to have to? I mean, you're going to have to file a lawsuit against the state to get this addressed?
Well, I mean, when you have the constituent relations people at DeWine's office laugh at you and tell you that you can only do it through ballot referendum or going to the legislature, I don't see an alternative other than possible class action or some sort of injunction, whether it's state or federal court. But the problem you have when you start going to court in Ohio, like there was with the decrim issue, it went to court, and basically every social situation from there on out that someone would try to make change was affected by the way that the judgment came down on the decrim stuff, so that it makes it harder for people to change things by the way that judgment was written and executed. So we got to think about that angle that the state's using to basically, okay, we'll give you this one, but the next time you try it, this callus is going to be involved, and it's going to be that much harder for you. I mean, 8th of August, we vote on minority rule in Ohio. You have to have 60% of the vote to get anything passed on the ballot or through.
But now, what would your ballot be? The ballot would be to go ahead and adhere to the law that was already passed and put in place. I don't understand how do you battle this?
That's the thing we're trying to figure out. I mean, that's where we are. And, we're currently discussing class action lawsuit and injunction. We want to gather the patient stories and add those to the studies that are being done annually by Doug Bourbon and Deepa at Ohio State Merit School of Law. And then basically turn the information on the legislature and say, hey, this is all your study, and this is what we're finding. Are you going to change this, or are we going to be forced to go to court to change it?
Well, what can folks in Ohio do to help make a difference?
Honestly, call your legislators. Tell them, why did you create something that's going to get me arrested? It's going to destroy my family. It's going to give you the opportunity to, be the heavy, be the big brother you're setting people up. Here's your marijuana. Oh, by the way, here's your handcuffs. And it's not ethical. It's not moral. It's not constitutional. And I can't believe that the feds haven't stepped in and done something with this. Because, the way Ohio did it in the first place, they basically went to the schedule of substances and said, oh, we like that one, and pulled out marijuana and made it a Schedule 2 in Ohio. I don't know any state that's ever gotten away with changing federal law.
I think the state of Nevada did change the scheduling of cannabis, and it hasn't reverberated internationally, but I guess, or nationally, but I guess if Ohio gets in, could follow that same track. Nevada state law did change their status.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is that, how do you do that and then take no action? So we have this legal chasm in 40 states between state law and federal law. And it seems like they're using it as a way to just crush people in their lives for using marijuana, because the feds aren't moving on anything.
But now you got an industry. You have an active industry in Ohio that's making money, that is paying taxes. What are the other industry representatives doing to help move or to help fix this issue?
I haven't seen a whole lot. Honestly, it's more about making more money and getting more power. They've put up regulate marijuana like alcohol, which they're trying to get signatures for. There's House Bill 168. There's the amendments for Senate Bill 9, which is the correction bill for the state program as it stands now. There's an anti-discrimination amendment attached to that. I spoke to the ranking Democrat on the subcommittee having those hearings now, and they told me that I was trying to Noah's Ark the bill by wanting the health department involved and wanting all the things basically we started to discuss here. And to me, that implies there's a flood, there's a problem, but they don't want to, they don't feel like it can get through the legislature if you put too much in it. That it's not gonna surpass the political, construing of the legislature and the Senate, the House and the Senate.
But see, I'm a little confused when you say put too much in it. All you want them to do is adhere to the law that they already passed that said that medical cannabis was legal.
I'd like it for use. I'd like to be able to use it without getting arrested. And
it doesn't. It just says it's legal for sale, but it doesn't say it's legal to use.
Well, no, that's the thing, is that it's not written out. I mean, that's the thing. You've got 72% of the licenses out there right now are not being used, and that's the Ohio State study that says that. So obviously, the common thought between everybody is, "Oh, I bought this license from the state, so I can use this freely, openly. It doesn't matter where I get it." And that's not the case. And that's the perception now. And, the state, I mean, if you look at the whole thing in the big picture and what they've done over all these years, there was intent, there was, motive, action. I mean, it's just stunning. I mean, they did it. They gave us a license to use, or not use, but, purchase and not use. And over and over again, it comes up. I mean, EMS transportation. I was denied EMS transportation in November of 21 because the guy knew I was a medical patient and didn't approve of it. An EMS shouldn't get to tell me I can't go to the hospital because he doesn't like weed.
Correct.
So
absolutely,
it just keeps going, and that it's the disease that keeps on giving. The disease of corruption. And
are you getting any support from outside of the state of Ohio?
No, not yet. I mean, like I said, I've just started all this, and you are our first, public interaction other than ComFest this last weekend, which we didn't advertise. We had about 45 people there. And it's the first audience I've left slack-jawed in my career. So, they couldn't believe it either. And I honestly don't. I mean, I'm not necessarily numb from it. I consider myself a stoic. So, not a lot gets to me.
But I mean, I guess here's where I'm coming from. Is like, if there is an active, robust program of selling cannabis in the state of Ohio. So there are people who are selling it. The people who are receiving it, are they just sneaking home to use it on their own? And or it's clearly part of the state. So how I'm missing something here. It's like, does the constituency understand their plight, or do they not care?
No, they don't. And that's the big problem. That's why we're here to sort of promote that point. because this is just a grand setup. I mean, that's all this has been. And now they're, saying that with the great success we've had with our medical marijuana control program, let's do a recreational. And of course, no. And I've said since this thing started that they will never be a recreational program in Ohio. They'll just parasite the medical program until it's recreational, and all you need is a note from a doctor. And that's kind of where they're leaning, other than this regulate marijuana like alcohol, which is another complete and total misappropriation of faith. I mean,
that would be kind of like an adult use state. So wouldn't that just solve the problem?
Not at all. Basically, what they do, they want to herd people towards the dispensaries again with regulate marijuana like alcohol. The home grow, or the way to do the home grow, is it bureaucratically hamstrings you. I mean, you probably have to be an attorney to do it. Multiple licenses, testing certificates, certain number of plants in certain.
Wait, but I thought you said you can't test.
Well, no, that's the home grow. See, this is home grow. There's a whole different angle they're going at. So, and if you can't surmount all of the things they're going to require to do the home grow, well, then you can do what I call the Build-A-Bear weed program, which is, you pick the seed, the plant, whatever, and they grow it for you at the dispensary, location, process it for you and give it to you. And that's not really home grow. It's the dispensary growing it for you. And that's what they're hurting people towards. They're making it so difficult to do and such a nightmare to try. They're herding people back to the dispensary for home grow. That's what it is.
That's so crazy. Anything else you want to add, my friend?
Oh, geez. No, the thing is why don't we just do it? I mean, the rest of the country is in the Stone Age, and we're in the Stone Age. I mean, I don't get it, and I don't understand how. God bless her. You bring, Brittany Griner back to this country, to a place that lets something like Ohio exist.
Right. So, if you want people to help out or get involved, where do you want them to go?
Actually, go to the Cannabis Museum site, or you can email us at Ohio Norml, BOD @gmail.com.
Okay. Well, I hope you can break through this bureaucratic ridiculousness.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I talk about setting up a population. I mean, it just, and how they continually get away with it. And there's no reaction from the FBI or the Justice Department or, Sherrod Brown or anybody like that. So.
Well, you're right. Or even Biden, who claims that he wants to figure out how to fix this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you fix it when you ignore it.
Right.
I mean, Ohio's probably the worst, but it's not the only state doing this kind of thing.
Well, Simon, I got to thank you so much for being a part of the show today and helping us understand what's going on the ground. I hope Ohioans will reach out to you to give you support of what you need to get this thing done.
Thanks very much, Montel. I enjoyed being on. Look forward to doing it again when we have some progress.
Absolutely. Please, and keep us posted on what the progress is, because I'd love to be able to talk about it. And again, like I said, I would really like to have a look around in that museum. So if you can get the curator to give us some information, we'd love to be able to have him on also.
Sure. You can pick up the computer right now and walk you around a little bit if you want to.
Well, yeah, I tell you what, let's do it this way. You shoot it first, then we can send it in, and Keith can do his magic to it and make it look all pretty and stuff.
We'll do that.
Sure thing, sir. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. I thank all of you for tuning into this edition of Let's Be Blunt with Montel. Thanks for joining me on Let's Be Blunt with Montel. Please make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell to be notified when new episodes post each week. We'd love to hear your feedback also, so please send us your comments.